All the journalists that you see here today have worked for Australia's premier current affairs programs, Four Corners, Foreign Correspondence, 7:30 Report, SBS Dateline. Between them, I've lost count of how many Walkley Awards they have, except I know Mark has been awarded 5 Walkley Awards and a gold Walkley and a Logie. He's now a barrister. He's known Julian Assange since the very early days, and Mark was in the bunker with him before the Afghan releases, with the New York Times and with The Guardian. Mark Davis.
Thanks, Mary. As Mary indicated, it's 10 years, incredible to think, but it's 10 years when I was with Julian in Europe, when he was effectively on the run, in possession of the Afghan war logs and about to release them. I was impressed then with his singular bravery. We would discuss what might happen. As he's in prison, I won't share what his forecasts were, but I'll give you mine. I would not have dreamt that 10 years later they'd still be pursuing him for that great act of releasing those war logs. And not only are they still pursuing him, and of course he's been incarcerated for most of this time, his punishment hasn't even begun. 10 years of this shit is just the beginning. He's got another 20, 30 years ahead of him if they have their way and if we let them. I'm mostly a lawyer now, and I can tell you from that experience, the last thing that Julian needs is more lawyers. It's not lawyers he needs. He's got some good ones, he doesn't need any more. And the reason that is that these charges are cooked. They're not conventional crimes, as you and I know, crimes. That as a society we agree some behaviours are beyond the pale and deserve to be punished. These are created crimes, and if you can create the crime, if you can define what an offence is, and in fact you define it precisely to the person that you want to get, that person has no chance at all of beating that charge. So it's a complete distraction to make lame comments such as unfortunately a lot of our politicians have. He'll have his day in court. It won't be a court as you and I know it. If Julian goes into that court, Julian is guilty. So it's really important we stop that moment now. I'll give you, I said I'd stick to 3 minutes. I'll just slip in one little anecdote. I was in the trial of David Hicks when they created, at Guantanamo Bay, they created a sort of mock court and created mock judges with flowing gowns to try and sort of echo 4 centuries of judicial history. The only reason, and they cooked up a charge for David Hicks, invented a charge specifically for him. The only reason that court didn't proceed is because it was mocked and laughed at by the media, and ultimately it was mocked and laughed at by the very lawyers that walked into that courtroom. It became so blatant, the ruse was so blatant that they themselves, the noble judges in their rented gowns, knew that they couldn't proceed. That's what stopped David Hicks, and I would suggest that a similar tactic should be applied to Julian. Don't give legitimacy to these charges. They deserve to be laughed at, they deserve to be scorned, and he deserves our support as an Australian citizen who should not be put through that process. The only thing that's going to save Julian Assange is a political movement. It's not the lawyers, it's a political movement. Now, I suspect that movement will come when Julian's in chains and about to be dragged off to whatever secret facility they have in mind for him. But of course we all know it will be too late at that moment. We need a political movement now, and finally I would just say this, I would tip my hat to Andrew Wilkie, who's taken leadership on this issue, and in particular, in huge bold letters, I tip my hat to George Christensen, National Senator from Queensland. It takes bravery of that man to do what he did, and I implore you to let him feel the love. No, it's what we want him to do, it's what we want all of our representatives to do, to have some courage on this issue. Thank you.
Another journalist